going to scooch over so you can get more in the frame.
Oh, yep. Ah.
So we just watched John Dies at the End.
What the hell even was this movie?
Before we start, ironically enough, we did watch this together at the same time.
Pretty
accidentally.
much. Yeah. I was at work, chewing it out.
I think we were off by maybe a minute because I finished the
Couple
movie.
of minutes.
Well, no, because you were talking about I met the lady. I
Yep.
just got to the part where I met the lady, and then I'm like, okay, and then I got to that part.
Yeah. And then at some point I had to pause and you got ahead because then you told me, oh, that's a lot of tits, which gave me a signal, oh, I haven't seen all the tits yet. It's time for me to go have a cigarette.
Yeah. So John Dies at the End, if you're not familiar with it, is based upon the book, which is based upon the web series, sort of, written on crack.com by David Wong.
If that name sounds familiar, that's because David Wong, main character. Hey, what do you know?
Well, David Wong, main character, also he's the executive producer on crack.com for most of their content, and he's on their podcast almost all the time. Really awesome dude, really cool. He's done 4 books up till now, and 3 of them are a part of the John Dies saga. So,
can you tell that he really, really likes this series?
I like this series a lot. I've read the books a lot. So I've read the books. Paul hasn't read the books. So let's start off by saying, first and foremost, this movie's awesome.
Yes. I may have said, what the hell even is this movie? But I loved it. I have had that type of reaction 2 other times. Once with Pink Floyd The Wall. Amusingly, he has an axe that's somewhat similar color to the Hammers.
Mm-hmm.
And once with Akira.
Oh, I wish I had my little poster thing that I found behind my chair.
Yeah. And, well, when it comes to Akira, as Derek can attest, I'm not going to go get it. It's off frame. I have the special edition box set of the manga, and I'm quite seriously looking at doing a double violation and getting the katakana of Akira on my forearm. I love that movie. And that manga.
Yeah.
So while yes, I may say, what the hell even is this movie? That's not a bad thing.
Well, yeah, and I'll say this, because I don't want to go into the book details just yet until we're done with the actual movie review part, because I could get on with that and I'm going to, for a little bit here. But this movie definitely recreates the whole feel of the book. So the whole what the fuck?
Yes.
Believe me when I say the book is more what the fuck than the movie is. Quite literally, because the opening scene of this movie starts off with my favorite thing, because it's the opening scene of the book.
It's a Theseus paradox. It's the ship of Theseus paradox.
So there you are in the middle of winter, chopping off the head of some crazed white skinhead with a swastika tattooed on his tongue, and your axe handle breaks.
You go to the hardware store, replace the handle, explain away the dark stains on it as barbecue sauce. And then a couple of months later, you leave it untouched, and they show just the axe just sitting there right next to it. And then this thing chops it up, chips the blade. So you have to go back to the hardware store again and explain again.
And then upon getting the back handle, you come back and you find the white skinhead standing there, his head reattached with what appears to be the weed whacker plastic, and he looks at the hammer and goes, that's the axe that killed me.
Is he right? It's the ship of Theseus.
And it's actually worded almost word for word from the book, which is awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But that is the ship of Theseus. If you take a ship, over time replace all of its parts, and then rebuild the ship from its parts, which one's the original ship?
But see, what I like
the one
about
from the original or the one that's new?
What I like about it is that it sets up the movie. Because I will say this, while it's in the book, that has a real moment. I'm going to get into that later, because it's actually something that does need to be brought up. But it does set the mood for the movie. Because essentially, it's a weird comedy with a lot of horrific ideas going on, but also some real intelligence behind it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of real intelligence going on in the movie.
Yes.
And in the book. And it's matched with a lot of stupidity, mixed with a whole lot of fucking fuckery. And the best way to describe the movie, just real quick, if you're like, I don't know how to describe this movie, the best way I go about it nowadays is imagine Supernatural, mixed with like a Kevin Smith comedy. Like that really sums it up pretty easily.
Yeah,
Mix in a little bit of Lovecraftian horror, and you've got yourself John dies at the end.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's very head trippy, like you would see from Lovecraft.
Yeah, imagine Dante and Randall from Clerks, basically hunting down demons like the Winchesters, and it's Lovecraftian horrors. That is John dies at the end.
Yeah, that does make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I still, again, I love this movie. I really like this movie. What the hell even is this movie? Because it goes from that beautiful Theseus paradox explanation
to the best opening prequel ever. Oh, actually, it goes to the restaurant.
It goes to the restaurant. It goes to him sitting there at the restaurant waiting to talk to Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, the reporter. And and the whole time he's tripping on the soy sauce. I think, here's the thing. We're going to have to gloss over some stuff because we're not going to be able to do it right.
No, you can't. Go watch it.
What I will say about this movie is that when it comes to book adaptations, you have the general problem of what do you keep in, what do you leave out. And, like, for instance, Peter Jackson did a great job. He kept the movie pretty close to the book, but he left out a lot of stuff. He left out a lot of characters, because you have to leave out a lot of characters.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things. If he even said, if he left in Tom Bombadil in Fellowship alone would have been a 2-day movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much true. That's fucking true to the extreme.
Yes.
But even beside that, he reordered it. He made it flow better in a movie form, because when you do a book, you can do a book however you want, but a movie is visual medium. You had to change it up a little bit here and there. You had to remove things.
You have to keep some sort of narrative flow. So where in a book, you can do flashbacks a lot easier. In a movie, you can't do that as easily.
Yeah. And what I will say about this movie is that it is extremely faithful. It honestly keeps in the first 4 chapters of the book as they are in the book. Like, with the variations. For instance, one of the characters they leave out is Jennifer Lopez. Not affiliated with the singer actress.
Okay.
Which is how they introduce the character in the book.
Not affiliated.
Yeah, not the same person. It's a different character that's also named Jennifer Lopez.
Michael Bolton.
Yeah, pretty much. Same aspect. But then, of course, there's also Amy's brother, who's actually a major part of the character roster. And then there's a lot more shit going. Like, there's characters upon characters upon characters and stories that really go on that are just. And of course, so David in this movie is in the book, in the movie, he's a pathological liar.
Which they do kind of cover with his opening, which he says, that's just something I do when I'm nervous, while talking to Giamatti after saying she was into, like, vampiric shit.
Well, essentially the whole idea is that he's a pathological liar, and John is just an asshole. Like, that is really how it goes down. They're both these horrible people. They're not horrible, but they're not the greatest people in the world. They're what you would call rejects.
Yeah.
And so it opens up with him in the restaurant, and he's just taking soy sauce, which we will get into later. But Paul Giamatti walks in, and I will say this: Paul Giamatti as the reporter is some of the best casting. Actually, I will say the casting in this movie is phenomenal.
Yes.
Like, hands down, like, bar none. Everyone really looks like who you think they should look like. Apart from the hair.
With the book.
Yeah, apart from the hair. The hair is about the only thing that really is off about the whole movie. Like, John actually has a ponytail. And if I remember right, David's hair is short cropped.
So
if I remember right. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I read the book. But, so, he's basically telling the reporter his story. In the books, he's telling him what happened for the last 5 years.
Oh,
Not
wow.
just one incident. Yeah. Not just one incident. 5 years of shit. In this movie, smartly...
They condensing it down to like a couple of days.
They condense it down more than you know. They condense it... Because, like I said, they keep the first 5 chapters in. And then... Right, I'm going to tell Paul, because he knows what I'm talking about. When the ghost door appears...
Yes.
That is at the end of the book. So they cut out the entire middle.
Oh, wow.
The middle is gone, and they just kind of sew it up right there, and that's what the movie does. It's really faithful here, drops everything in the middle. That's why at the end it feels weird, because they literally have to explain away everything that
has happened that they cut out.
Like Marconi. They actually meet Marconi way earlier on.
Yeah, well, they show that there's some sort of link with the Meat Man. Yeah.
Well, the Meat Man story is supposed to take place about a few months before he talks to the reporter.
Okay.
It's really complicated. It takes a lot to gain. Essentially, in the book, the whole thing that happens at the end of the movie.
Yes.
That was a few weeks ago, and he basically has a guilty conscience because of something that happened that was not in the movie, and he basically has to talk to the reporter. That's why he does all this. So basically, it goes on to the Meat Man storyline, which is identical to the book as well. You explain it.
So...
Because I've been talking.
Yeah. So, John calls up Dave, talks in code that is fucking out there.
Don't forget we kill the president tomorrow.
Which is code for bring beer. Yeah, there's this whole, meet me at the place where he had the, I can't remember which type of prostitute. One without the goatee.
Yeah. The funny thing about that, I will say as well, is that is a consistent theme of the book. Where whenever John calls Dave, he does code. Like that. That is not just a one-time thing. That is a literal every time he calls moment.
Yeah. But John calls Dave up. Dave goes, oh fuck. Goes out. Talking to this chick. They go down into the basement. And because her boyfriend is still around, even though he's been dead for a couple of weeks.
That's something like that. I think she said a month or so.
Yeah.
2 months.
2 months. 2 months.
Yeah.
I knew it was 2 something. So he's been dead for a couple of months and still beating the hell out of her.
Yeah.
Even though he's dead. So they go, shit, okay, we'll take care of this. Go check the basement. Go check the basement. Freezer full of meat comes to life.
Well, you're skipping a little bit here. Essentially, they figure out they're seeing a different version of the woman.
No, that's at the end. That's after Meat Man.
No. No. I read the books. Fuck off.
Okay, so they realize that they're seeing a different version of seeing a different version of the Meat Man.
And they reveal her out to be a liar. She turns into a pile of snakes. They try to escape.
They pull the dick move with the door handle.
Literally. you didn't say what they did.
They turn the door handle into a dick.
Pretty much.
So it's a dick move with the door handle.
And that's consistent in the book. That literally happens in the book.
I'm not entirely surprised at this stage.
Yeah.
Then they go, oh well shit. Then the Meat Man arises from the freezer.
And that's
and it is
beautiful.
Yeah. You know the rock monster from Galaxy Quest? Imagine that made of meat.
I thought you were gonna say the Never Ending Story.
I have never seen
what?
Any of them. Actually, no. Take that back. I've seen number 3.
I veto your next selection movie.
Is it on Prime?
It better be. I don't care. I'll buy it. I have to. We're watching that one. If we can't buy it now, we're watching Never Ending Story at some point in the future. No. All right, moving on. Meat Monster Man. No. Atreyu. Come on. Falcor.
Yes, I am aware of the characters because I watched the TV show.
Don't make me use the axe. I'll beat your ass with this. Because this is no ordinary axe. This is Axe Cop Axe.
I kind of want to just shoot you with one half of this now.
And I kind of want to slice your head off. But I know it wouldn't do any good, you just come back.
Yep. There's a weed whacker in the garage, bitch.
But no, Meat Man comes out and he's asking for Marconi.
Yeah, he's trying to attack them. And they go, we're not Marconi, but we can get you Marconi. Call out Marconi, and it is Clancy Brown. You know, the asshole cop from Shawshank Redemption?
Yeah.
The one who, like, held Andy Dufresne over the frickin' edge while Andy's talking about how you can keep the tax bonus as a one-time gift to your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Do you draft your wife? What do you mean?
Also,
No, seriously.
Also the Kurgan.
He was also the... Oh, yeah, he was the Kurgan. And he's the voice of Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
Which does blow my mind.
I can hear it, but... goddamn.
It does blow my mind a little bit that that's Mr. Krabs.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. It's one of those... What? Well, it makes sense, but what? So, yeah. Clancy Brown takes the phone, talks to Meat Man. Meat Man just kind of...
You know what?
Poof.
You know, we're not going to be able to do this any justice by explaining.
No.
So, you know what we're going to do instead?
What?
Watch the movie.
Yes.
That's the recommendation.
Yeah. Watch this damn movie. It is a great movie.
Instead, let's talk about our favorite scenes.
Oh, God.
Because honestly, at this point, we're not going to explain it. We're not. It's going to be a 5-hour thing where we try to explain the movie. Because here's the thing: the book is more packed and dense than the movie is. In fact,
And the movie is pretty goddamn dense.
Like, for instance, okay, the next scene after that is where he's at the rock concert.
Yes, the rock concert with
Three-Armed Sally.
Three-Armed Sally, but it is
John
Camel Holocaust as the song.
Yeah, Camel Holocaust, which they also sing word for word for the book, which is awesome.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah,
and then we meet Robert Marley, the Jamaican.
No, we got to talk. I want to talk about Three-Armed Sally.
Oh.
In the book, there's a reason why John is there. Dave is there in the first place.
Oh,
he's actually the singer. His whole thing is he opens up the show, and this is the joke. He opens up the show and pretends to sing horribly, as horrible as he can, and then he pretends to die on stage, so that John can jump up, throw his body off the stage, and take over. It's a whole performance thing they do in order to make themselves look better.
Nice.
Yeah, it's funny as shit.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then of course they meet Bob Marley, the Jamaican, who has
Robert Marley, not Bob Marley.
Yeah, Bob
which
Marley, whatever.
Seems to be a very now that you said Jennifer Lopez, not associated with that Jennifer Lopez. I wonder how big of a theme that is.
In the book's not that big of a theme.
Oh, it's just those two.
It's just those two. And,
okay.
Robert is called Bob Marley in the books, if I remember right. I think
probably licensing issues.
Well, probably. I think that's probably a good reason why. They had to kind of keep they had to keep they had to keep Marley because
they had to keep the Jamaican.
He's essential to the story.
Yeah, he's the one who has the sauce.
Well, he's the one that starts off everything. Because I will say, there's one thing I hate about this movie. There's two things I hate about this movie. Actually, there's two things I hate about this movie because they don't do it right. It upsets me, but I get it.
Okay.
So first off, the soy sauce we got to talk about first.
Yes.
That's not the thing that pisses me off. Soy sauce is this thing that if you take, it fucks your perception of reality. Or rather, it clears your perception of reality. That's the whole idea, is that...
Yeah, I would say, if we're going to go with a Lovecraftian ideal, it is clearing your perception of reality. Because that's part of Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
You live on, to quote Call of Cthulhu, we live on the placid island of ignorance.
If Kurt Wagner's book, there's Kurt Wagner's book. It's about a guy who's able to mentally time travel throughout his own timeline.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Very similar to the idea behind the butterfly effect with Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
Which I also haven't seen.
Well, actually, that's actually a better example of what the soy sauce can do. But essentially, the idea is that with his mind open, he's able to perceive the fourth dimension, which allows him to travel to and from time, perceive things as no one else could perceive, Like in the
Use a
books,
bratwurst as a cell phone.
no, that's different. That's actually not because of the soy sauce. That's because that's complicated. But what the soy sauce does is when you take it, the side effects are like it opens your mind. So like in the movie, he's about to get shot, and so he mentally goes back in time to the point of the guy making the bullet,
and screws up the manufacturer of the bullet so that it is not as powerful, so it doesn't kill him. It just knocks his ass out.
Yeah. That happens several times in the book. The soy sauce is not used very often in the books, but when it is used, it's shit like that where it's like John sends himself a parcel in order to trick Shitload, and I'm using character names that we haven't talked about yet. I'm sorry, but I don't care. Like I said,
Shitload essentially is biblical legion.
But here's where we're going to talk. That is the part that pisses me off. Is Shitload. Okay. So, again, I'm not talking about the movie because fuck it, there's too much of the movie to talk about. Yeah. We're talking about aspects of this movie that I love and hate. So that way, if you know the book, whatever. Shitload is like host of these like
sentient tiny little flies.
But that is the wrong way to put that because sadly enough, they're not flies.
Yeah, they're
look like flying corkscrews. Like little tiny corkscrews that drill into your skin, and like
I fell on a drill. Now that line makes sense.
Yeah, and they're scary in the books. Like honest to God, the book is funny, but one of the scarier moments is when those things come out, because in the movie, it shows like Shitload exploding. Or no, the detective.
It shows the detective exploding after having set Shitload's body on fire.
And they come out and like they're in the car with it when it happens. And
flip the car, try to get the hell out.
Yeah.
Frank stays in, gets infected, so they blow up the car with Frank in it.
Yeah. And in the books, though, it tells you exactly how it feels to have one of those things drill into you. Because like a few of them drill into Dave. In the book, they drill into his arm, and he's like, he tells you exactly. It's like it's the worst feeling. It's like, oh, it's terrifying.
Nice.
One of the scarier aspects. There's actually another part of the book that's super fucking scary. It's still the scariest thing I've ever read. And it's weird, but that's the scariest thing I've ever read because it's weird. But so they become paranormal investigators in the book. Okay, that's what they do. They hunt down evil,
and we kind of get the idea that that's what they're doing from that opening sequence with Meat Man.
Yeah. Essentially, they do it for money, but it's not their main job. Their main job is actually working at a video rental store in the books. That's what they do.
Clerks.
That's why I said Clerks. But there's a moment where they're helping out Amy. This is when they start, because Amy gets introduced early on in the book, and she's one of the victims of Shitload. And then you don't hear about Amy for like half the book. She's just gone. And then she comes back into their life because she has another problem that's happening. But one of them, she's like, I don't remember what's happening to me. I keep blacking out. And they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, I have a chat log. I was on my friends with AIM, and I printed out the whole chat log. What happened? And the whole next chapter is like an AIM chat log of like 4 friends talking to each other. And how do I put this?
If that isn't early 2000s for you, AIM.
Okay, so bear with me on this.
Yeah.
You remember the movie Happening, right?
I've never seen The Happening, thank God.
Okay, so if you know The Happening, the beginning part where they're talking to each other and one of them starts getting weirder and weirder as they just start to kind of lose grip of reality.
I think I've seen that scene.
It's like they're reading books like, what part are you at? The part where the man murders his wife. Ah, that's right. Huh. But okay, so it's a chat log, so they're all talking to each other, and then one of them just starts talking random, but no one's like noticing, no one's paying attention. The other one starts talking random, it starts talking random, until finally, as you're reading it, you realize it's like one entity, like
talking to itself,
pretty much, and it's creepy and scary and fucked up. And it's the best fucking thing I've ever read.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a reason why the books are so good, because they legitimately are scary. One of the main things I guess I can't fault them because I don't know how you would have pulled it off without looking way worse. So for the fact they did in the movie, I have to applaud them, even though I don't like it.
Okay.
Which is the last scene in the movie where they go into the alternate dimension.
Yeah.
In the book, that whole scenario. Okay, so the end of the movie, they go through a door. Don't worry, you're not missing out on a whole lot here. Just watch the movie. It's honestly, trust me, because the book is really, really good. Read the book. If you want to watch the movie, watch the movie. It's good. We're
not horribly we're skipping over a shitload of things.
There's no mystery going on in this movie.
No, there is no mystery.
In the book, there is. The book is a big mystery, but the movie just blows past the mystery because in order to do the mystery right, you'd have to do the whole book, and you can't do the whole book.
So they're just kind of, what the hell's going on? Well,
they answer the main.
It's extra dimensional aliens.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not extra dimensional aliens. It's another dimension. It's another dimension where a guy was crossbreeding animals to make more sentient, better animals, and he
specifically a Clydesdale and a bull, which is what killed him at the age of 17 in our timeline.
Yeah.
In this other timeline, he lived.
Essentially, he creates a whole society that has formed around the idea of animals that are able to do things. So the animals that are computers and shit like this. And which is where you get fucking
it starts with a K.
Yeah, I won't.
Special K.
Special K. And so in the books, it's fucking scary. And they go to this other dimension, and it's described as being weirdly colored, to a point where it's hard to describe. And the people that come to talk to them are naked, and their faces look as if they're not real.
Which explains the masks that everyone's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Because while they are somewhat unique to each person, it doesn't look quite right as a mask, so there's some makeup work going on as well. Yeah. It's actually kind of impressive.
But the thing about I liked in the books was that you saw them multiple times.
Nice.
Dave kept seeing them in his TV screen, staring back at him and shit like that.
So you had a lot of foreshadowing about their appearance.
You had a lot of foreshadowing. In the movie, they just kind of
show up.
We're here, and
it's the Eyes Wide Shut dimension.
Yeah.
Which that's actually the line.
Pretty much, and it's actually pretty accurate too.
Yeah.
And then
which is where I got the text of, "Whoa, that's a lot of tits."
There's a lot of tits, and that's the one thing I also found weird. Is the guys are wearing suits. And the women are completely naked because in the book... No.
They're wearing panties.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, they're wearing panties. But, I mean, in the book, everyone's nude as shit. And in fact, the only person that's clothes is the guy leading the group. And his explanation is, hey, we know that you'd be uncomfortable if everyone was nude, so I've come dressed in your attire in order to comfort you.
Yeah. Which is similar to the explanation given in the movie.
Sort of.
They kind of invert it in the movie.
They basically say, we've already shown a dick in this movie, we can't show another, but we can show as many tits as we want, so that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, and that actually does fall underneath the MPAA. There are certain rules about flaccid versus hard penises and the rating it gets.
I don't get that, but okay.
MPAA.
So that's not the point of this. Point is, that whole scene plays out differently. What I think is really gets lost, again, is the ending. I think that's what lost you, right?
Yeah, well, it had been a little head trippy to begin with, but then all of a sudden it cranks up from mildly head trippy to, hey, you want something that'll make the wall make sense? Watch this.
Yeah, the problem
Hold
is...
my beer.
In the book, you literally have a whole fucking 300 pages of setup for these guys. That's literally what's going on. You get a setup for Amy and her hand, because she's missing a hand.
Which we kind of get an idea of from Frank.
You do get an idea.
Yeah, we see that she is, in fact, missing a hand, and they set up the phantom limb syndrome, which is why she's the one who's able to open the ghost door.
Yeah, but this is the other part that does piss me off. And it's one of the few. And I think about there's 3 parts that piss me off, because there's one that still pisses me off.
Okay.
It's the weapons that come out. Because I think that's the only downside of this whole movie, is that up to this point, everything is so good. They rush the ending because they have to. And I understood that. I get it. It's a part of the storyline that they start off with, like in the first few chapters. It's literally the first thing that starts it up, and then they do their own thing for a while, and then they go back to the storyline, but in like a weird way. And then there's the twist, which I'm going to talk about here in a little bit.
Okay.
And then the whole ending part happens. So there's the whole section here that happens. But if you're making a movie about it, you got to keep this first part in, because the first part introduces everything.
Sets up everything.
So you have to try and end it
back where it ties back into that.
Yeah. So it literally, they did the best they could. But one of the downfalls is they pull out the weapons. And if you haven't read the books, your main question is, what the fuck? Where do these weapons come from? How do they make them so quick?
Well, at the same time, he said bring your gear, and we see him load up some shit into a fucking giant double bag, and it's one of those. So I just took it as, this is shit that they already had.
Yeah, but that
including the Old Testament wrapped spiked baseball bat.
That's fair. Okay, if you're not thinking about it that way, if you're thinking about it that way, that's fair. But they already explicitly say that this is what happened after we took it. Then here's how it started. So they didn't have the hammer, and they didn't have the baseball bat and everything. But in the books, it's very well. They have, again, the Winchesters, where they have like all this arsenal that's been crafted.
Open the trunk and arsenal.
Yeah, they're very. That's the most funny thing is they're not organized like that at all. Like, in fact, they're in the books. They have a boombox, which has a tape in it that if you play Barbra Streisand, it actually stops spiritual energy. It's a magic boombox.
How's that magic? I think that's just a regular boombox because it's Barbra Streisand.
I think they make that joke too. But there are so many things in the book about the weapons, because they're all very special. Like, for instance, that baseball bat with the nails in the Bible pasted on it.
And the Old Testament wrapped around.
That Bible, those pages from the Bible are actually from a hotel where they actually caught an extra-dimensional demon. Where they stopped one. And so they used the Bible from that encounter to wrap around a baseball bat. It's very complicated.
Well, I guess the Gideons are up to something good then.
Yeah.
Sadly, interestingly, the Gideons are no longer allowed to place Bibles in every hotel room anymore.
Weird.
Some hotels are strictly for banning it. And it's one of those, if I forgot to bring a book, I'll thumb through it, because the Gideon Bible, while it's not the best translation, it's actually a pretty decent one.
You ready to get your head fucked with?
Okay.
So the axe. The
axe from the opening apparently makes a return.
No, it doesn't.
What?
The question it raises does.
Oh, the ship of Theseus.
Yeah, because, okay, so this is no spoiler here. Well, it's a very big spoiler for the book, so I guess I'll say it right now.